excited here in the state of Missouri about our school plant managers. We have a massive turnover in school superintendents this year. We have 100 new openings this year with 500 school districts. So we think the need for school plant managers and training is larger than ever.
Welcome to Facility Maven here on Podbean, a podcast where your questions on facility and cleaning issues are answered by mavens in your field. This podcast is brought to you by FacilityMaven.com, where you can elevate your career with facility and cleaning supplies. Good morning, everyone. This is Dave Thompson. As you heard in the intro, I am your host today for this podcast. And you know, like we say every time that I come on the air with you, you did not come on the air to listen to me ramble on. But you know what? I have kind of a tendency to do that from time to time. I don't know where you're at, but this week is supposed to be hot, hot, hot. But you know what? I moved to Florida and I'm not going to hit triple digits. But you know where our speaker is coming from today? He's back where I moved from. Back in Missouri, and I understand, Charlie, it's supposed to get in triple digits up there today. Charlie, are you there with me?
I'm here. Good morning, David. It is supposed to be hot, and I am going to be in an air-conditioned wood shop most of the day.
I got you covered on that one, Charlie. You know, the thing is when you come down here to Florida, one of the things I did is I said, you know, I won't be seeing that triple digit, but the humidity. Anyway, folks, you didn't come on the air to listen to us talk about weather. I'm going to let Charlie tell you who he is, what he's doing, and a little bit about why he's here, and then we'll get into the meat of the matter with you, Charlie. So a little brief introduction, if you will.
Well, thanks for introducing me, and thanks for having us. We're excited here in the state of Missouri about our school plant managers. We have a massive turnover in school superintendents this year. We have 100 new openings this year with 500 school districts. So we think the need for school plant managers and training is larger than ever. I come from the school world. I was an eighth grade English teacher for 6 years in a small rural school district, and came to a larger district and moved into high school administration, then into central office. And then I learned quickly how to take care of school facilities and how to lead our staff. So that's what I do now. I'm the executive director of the school plant managers in Missouri. We're 32 years young and running. I am only the second school plant the executive director of our school plant managers association. The first gentleman, Tony Sloan, was the director of facilities in the Columbia Public School District, very large school district in our state, right at the University of Missouri. And he held the position for 27 years and handed it off to me. So I'm in my fifth year. And we just continue to grow, and the need for our training is larger than ever.
Now, what's interesting about this conversation today, folks, is some history you might not know is I worked with Tony Sloan, did a lot of different education, some subjects, which we'll talk about as we go. But I am from Missouri, and Columbia Public Schools was one of my large accounts that I worked with for many years. So it's an interesting thing that after leaving Missouri, being here in Florida for 6 years, that here we are, we're joining forces again together because I'm going to be podcasting with the MSPMA conference this fall. That is, if you haven't been in and you haven't seen it, it's September the 18th through the 20th of this year. It's a live conference. That means it's live and in person, isn't it, Tony? I had Tony's name on my mind. Sorry, Charlie.
And that's
Charley
okay.
Branham.
That's certainly not an insult to me. It might be to Tony. But yes, we are going to podcast live. Podcasts are new to the Missouri School Plant Managers. And we're pleased to have David join us and come be a part of our conference and kind of change the environment a little bit and give us a little jump start on some things and get people talking. And as I've listened to your podcast, David, you do a great job of engaging conversation. So we're looking forward to having you.
So speaking conversations on this, Charlie, there's a lot of plant managers, school plant managers in the state of Missouri that, well, maybe for the first time are listening to this. we want them to be involved now and through the conference and afterwards.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. Our mission for all school plant manager associations is to provide the opportunities for our school plant managers to engage with our vendors, the professionals in each cell of plant managing. We want them to engage with one another from other school districts. We want them to have conversation. We want them to participate in training. We also want them to deliver some training for us. We at the Missouri School Plant Managers work with our State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education throughout the summer. And we just completed workshops in St. Joseph School District up in the northwest corner of the state. And we just finished at Poplar Bluff School Districts in the southeast corner of the state. And then this week, we'll have a team that includes Tony Sloan, believe it or not, at the ripe young age of 83. and they will be in Boonville today and tomorrow, and then they are headed to Branson, Missouri, Thursday and Friday this week. We'll conclude our summer workshops in St. Charles, Missouri, on June 23, 24. Those are free workshops. We'll have about 300 plant managers with us. Those workshops are basically provided for field staff in the school districts, your custodians that want to have training, your maintenance folks that want to expand their skill set, those that are interested in supervision or that you as a plant manager are ready or relying on for maybe some evening or some shift supervision. We provide that training throughout. That's a 2-day training at every one of these sites. We provide that throughout the summer, and it's paid for by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So we're already busy this summer and just about halfway through our training program.
You know, what's interesting about this, Charlie, is I used to be involved with that. Now, I'm going to go back. This was probably in the late 90s that I was doing some of those DESE workshops. I remember being in several of those locations. You know, if there's somebody listening to this podcast right now that's been to one of these summer workshops, I would love to talk with not only the plant manager, but the frontline technicians that actually do the job. Charlie, how hard was it for you to get onto this podcast? Because you know what, some of these people listening may go, "Oh, well, I'm scared of that." Is it scary?
Well, there are a few steps. David, a couple years ago, I didn't want an app on my phone because I didn't want it notifying me, didn't want it bothering me. And so last week, my wife actually grouped my apps. So it's hard to tell where this app is going to jump in on my groupings, and then I have to use glasses to see it. It wasn't hard. It prompts you, this particular app prompts you every step of the way. When it says double click, that means twice. That was one of my errors. When it says tap here and it's sitting there blinking at you to call in, then you're supposed to actually tap where it's blinking. So other than that, I mean, it's the stuff that the second grader can do really, really well that we at my ripe young age or old age of 50, 58, you know, I'm just right in the middle of the technology generations. So it was not difficult, and now that I have it, I got it. And now I think the key is in all technology is to use it frequently. And if you use something frequently, then it becomes the habit and the first nature. So not that difficult, just new to me.
Charlie, this is the reason why we use Podbean. Now, folks, we are broadcasting live, so don't get all excited and everything. All that simply means is everybody in the world can listen to you.
Yeah, that's scary in some ways.
But, you know, don't worry about that because we have control of the board and everything. So it's not like, you know, that you got to answer questions from them. I'll shield you from that on that today, Charlie. You know, you mentioned a number of things. Go ahead.
I thought you were going to edit this. I didn't know when I accepted your invitation to be live.
Well, you know, hey, you just got to roll with the flow, right, Charlie?
Just got to get out there and get your toes wet.
Okay, so now that your toes are wet, we're telling everybody that's listening, if you're in Missouri and you're a school plant manager, or you have custodial staff working for you. Not just custodial staff, but facility management staff. And we started a new thing this year, Charlie, that we've been doing is we've been trying to talk with different facility managers around the country as to interesting things that happen to them, challenges, tips, tricks. Have you heard some of those, Charlie?
I heard your podcast of a gentleman out on the East Coast that I think you're pretty close or friends with that had to get to some kind of a retirement party or event in his building, and an administrator, I believe, asked him if he was going to be there, but the administrator had not requested any setup for the event yet. So naturally, as facility folks do, he rolled right into a full setup and took care of everything. So yes, that was hilarious, and it's so true. I did see so many times that happened during my career.
Yeah, and it still happens. And here we are in summer. There's all kinds of summer issues that are going on top of what you talked about. Now, DESE has been around for quite some time, and you work with that program for those summer workshops. How long are those summer workshops?
You mean as far as how long do they last each session?
Yeah, I mean, you said you'd been in like 3 different cities so far.
Yes, they are. They're almost 2 days long. The first morning, which is this morning, that workshop will start at 7:30, 8 o'clock. About an hour later, the most facility folks show up to do their work, and they'll do all the registration. They'll do introduction. They'll break out into their sessions. We do one on housekeeping. It's very thorough. One of our board members delivers that from Hilliard. And then we have one on supervision. And then actually the treasurer of MSPMA, a long-time custodial housekeeping director from Rockwood, and then the Francis Howell district, he leads this session on supervision, which is a early leadership type program. And then we have a light maintenance program. And one of our board members from the higher education group, he leads that. And then the last one's on HVAC, and we have another board member of MSPMA, but he is a vendor as well. So 2 of our vendor reps and then 2 of our board members from SPA lead those, and they finish up on the second day at about 3 o'clock.
So that's 2 full days for facility management personnel.
That's right.
Provided by DESE.
Yes.
How long has DESE been doing this for the schools now?
I think longer than DESE's been organized. About 4 or 5 years ago, funding was a little tighter, and they didn't see the need for this. But the folks that made that decision had never been involved in the summer training, and so MSPMA went back to DESE and said, "Time out. Aren't school facilities as important as what we hear?" And absolutely. Well, then we need to continue to offer training. The problem is DESE's into so many things, curriculum, so much oversight of school districts. It's hard for them they don't actually deliver a lot of programming. And so we made that offer that we'll offer the programming through school plant managers. That's what we do. And you fund it. So that's that. We started that about 4 or 5 years ago, and it seems to be the best model.
Well, I have a little bit of history in some of that, Charlie. You may not know this, but I was involved with the green cleaning laws for the state of Missouri at the Capitol. I think that was like 2004, 5, 6, somewhere in there. And of course, DESE was involved with that and stuff. So, I have a lot of understanding about people that make decisions that aren't involved, unfortunately, or fortunately sometimes. And speaking of such, I think you've got some other programs that we're going to be talking about through podcasting, not with DESE, but with another operation.
That's true. So we have formed a strong alliance because it's closely matched with school safety, the Center of Educational Safety. And the Center for Educational Safety was a standalone entity for many years that would train those of us in school districts on our school safety and some of the requirements that DESE had for school districts in the state. But the funding dried up several years ago. And then another association, a large group called the Missouri School Boards Association, were receiving so many needs from their school districts that they actually brought the Center for Educational Safety into their fold. So the funding for the first few years for the Center for Educational Safety took place through Missouri School Board Association. More so now, Center for Educational Safety Missouri receives the statewide grants and different funds to offer programs of the nature of school safety around the state. So we, Missouri School Plant Managers, have a really good friendship with the Missouri School Boards Association, and in particular, Amy Roderick, the Director of Center for Educational Safety. And last year we did a program, Missouri School Plant Managers offered guidance on indoor air quality. And it's amazing the folks that we put together to offer that program. You know, there's no bureaucrat involved, there's no politics involved, there's no regulation involved. We put together school plant managers, we put together a pediatrician, we put together indoor air quality specialist, equipment specialist, school facility specialist, and created our indoor air quality guidance. And we've offered that around the state via virtual meetings already. We have it recorded and able to share. And it's just an amazing session. And actually, we're getting ready to offer that session again on June the 23rd at MASSA, which is the Missouri Association of School Administrators, primarily the superintendent associations. And so for the first time in our history, we're going to offer a standalone school facility workshop over at the Capitol area in Jefferson City for MASSA and the superintendents. And we just got this brainchild of so many new superintendents. They needed additional training on school facilities, or need to at least focus on it instead of going to a conference of school administration and receive all the updates in school finance, the updates and what a school district has to do for the year, all the new reports, all the logistics of managing a school district, and pick up one class in school facilities. We wanted to offer something to superintendents that was strictly focused on school facilities. So we reached out to MASSA, and they loved what we offered. One is our indoor air quality. The second one is a school facility operations manual that our folks internally, our board members of MSPMA, have worked to perfection so that you could take our blank slides actually and fill in the name of your school district and adopt the pieces of that operations manual that you wanted. And then the last one we're going to teach with superintendents is capital planning. Not master planning, capital planning, how to assess and evaluate your school facilities and how to plan and prioritize what needs to be done over the next 12 and 24 months. But those are the trainings that we have going right now with other associations. So as you can tell, we're friends of other associations. We're not, the Missouri School Plant Managers is not a part of another association. We're not under an umbrella, which is the case in many states. We're a standalone association.
So you and I are going to be doing some podcasting. I think we're going to do like 4 of these with this program. What are some of the subjects or the topics that we're going to try to cover in those podcasts, Charlie?
Okay. We're going to talk about school safety in general. And school safety has gotten to be a very broad topic. You know, first, school safety was about physical safety. It was about locks on doors. It was about doing different drills within your schools so that your teachers in your schools were prepared for an intruder. It's long ago when I was in school, it was a tornado drill and a fire drill. And so bulletproof glass now, and cameras and deterrences and lighting in areas of an evening. I mean, things have just changed from when I was younger and in school to the physical safety to now the mental health. And so, as school plant managers, we have to focus, we have to be a part of the team in our schools. And that's what the Center for Educational does primarily. It brings all those entities in a school together, including the physical safety folks, the school plant managers. It brings us all together so that we understand that we all have a part in school safety. So, David, though each of those 4 sessions aren't defined, the Center for Educational Safety is working on the topics that they'd like for us to discuss openly. And I'm sure there'll be some physical safety, but now indoor air quality is environmental safety, which is physical safety. So those are all out there for our discussion, and we'll hone in on those with you, and that's what we'll talk about.
That's an interesting thing because Charlie, as much as you're going to talk about this, or I should say, we're going to talk about it with other plant managers and stuff. These are issues that every school district in America and actually across the world are thinking about in light of what has been going on this year.
Yes, it's unfortunate that the events, the horrible events, take place, and then we end up talking about school safety again. School safety is ongoing; it never ends, and a school district puts himself in a compromising position when they forget about school safety, and unfortunately, it's just in our world. It's not something that we ask to do. It's not something that schools want to focus on. We're not parents. We're not safety officers. We're teachers. We have content. We help kids grow through experiences and learning. But unfortunately, in our world, the scope that a school district has to offer, the topics and has to be in touch with and on top of, has just grown and grown, and school safety is one of those ugly things. So we just have to face it.
It's not. I'm sorry, but I'm going to kind of, folks. We have 3 words we follow on our podcast: healthy, positive, and proactive. And I've always found that the world as a whole focuses on the negative, and we call it ugly and nasty and bad. On the other hand, if we want to focus on the positive side of it, and so this is where I always say, let's focus on the proactive part of this to make positive. And, I think of a fire drill. Nobody wants a fire. We don't want to talk about a fire. But if we proactively train, go through the drills and do that, and Charlie, I have to say this because I was just with some people this weekend that was on a boat cruise. 2-hour boat cruise on the East Coast around a bay. And about an hour into it, the captain comes on and says, well, we got to turn around. There's a boat here. There's a ship here that's sent out a distress call. They turn around and get there, and there's a fire on the boat. And they got to pull up alongside, and all of a sudden, one of the fire tugs comes alongside, pushes their boat into the other one, and sprays stuff over them onto the fire. What are they doing? Here they are, all of a sudden taking on all of the passengers. And she said one of the funny thing about it is she said, maybe not so funny, but they were just acting like, well, it's this leisurely Sunday afternoon thing. And they were taking pictures and video. And we're both looking at each other as like, folks, don't you realize this is a fire?
Right.
And I think this is what we're talking about, Charlie, is we need to focus on what do we do before something happens so when it does. It's the same as why do we take a driver's test so that we know not to run a stoplight?
True. There are just so many parts of school safety that have we've taken on more and more because of the tragedies. And it seems that if we lay down our guard and we forget to practice these things and make them part of our normal our procedures, it seems like that we end up with these horrific situations, and then we have we're out here trying to redo to improve, to make it better.
So, folks, I think that's what we're wanting to do here is with the podcast is just talk these things through. That's what a podcast is. Having conversation, talking it through, bringing it to front of mind. You know, I think I was listening to you go through the list of the different schools, and I'm thinking about all of those schools in my 35-year career there in Missouri that I worked with, and all the ones you named I've worked with. And I'm thinking, you know, a number of them said, you know, they told me, they said they didn't purchase from me because of certain reasons, but they did have one thing in common. Whenever I needed it, you had already talked to me about it. That's what a podcast is.
There you go.
Folks, if you're listening to this podcast today, this is about bringing awareness to something that maybe you're not thinking about today. But when it comes up, we want it to be front of mind. So that's what we're going to try to do in these 4 safety podcasts through the Missouri School Plant Managers here, is try to bring to the forefront things that you may not want to think about and that you maybe not have. So we encourage anybody that's listening, you know, if you've got something to say on these subjects, reach out to me. I want to talk with you about it so we can put these things together.
It really helps, David, with folks back in their own school district. They're doing some things, and they're not sure they're the right thing to do, but they have to do something. They listen to others talk, or they're in trainings, or they're at a meeting, and they're with like folks. So maintenance directors side by side introduce one another. You know, they find out that what they're doing is very similar to what someone else is doing. It just reassures them they're on the right track for their kids and their school, or something comes up that they hadn't thought of, and they're able to take that back to their district.
I think about this as I was at one of the conferences in Columbia years ago, and one of the people that went through the Joplin Tornado, that school, those people from that school was talking at that conference, and I can guarantee you what those people went through in that Joplin Tornado, there's a lot of people that changed what they're doing.
Absolutely. I was actually I led our design teams on 6 new campuses and 8 new schools here in our community. We were a really fast growing school district outside of St. Louis, about 45 minutes. And
over there in Troy.
I'm here in Troy, Missouri. That's right.
Yeah.
And our architect brought so many things that we found from Joplin. We watched a lot of footage, what footage was available from Joplin. And we changed overhead windows being installed or not installed, the way that corridors were long and doors at the end of them that could cause wind tunnels through tornadoes. So there were things that we did physically in designing schools after we saw those images, and it makes sense to learn from those things.
You know, I think what's interesting when you said indoor air quality, I was with a school that was building a new addition, and they said, we're installing windows. I said, why is that such a big deal? He said, look at the rest of our building. There's no fresh air coming in. We're having to rely on only the HVA. He said, we need to be bringing in fresh air. We're installing windows for the first time. Things change because we talk about them.
They do. And then when you get to school safety and you get on that topic, you got to watch the placement of your windows.
Absolutely. Yeah, those windows weren't down low. They were up high.
Yeah, that's it. And so through our discussion, you pick these things up, something maybe you never thought of, but the natural sunlight, the open, fresh air that can come in from outside is good. In some cases, it's not in other cases. So, my last 5 or 6 years, most of our heating cooling systems were highly efficient. You know, split units that came into your rooms, didn't have outside air. You put in a second system, which I remember as a package, a rooftop air unit or a ground floor air unit. So you literally we put in 2 systems in all of our modern buildings. One to bring in fresh air and to temper the air to a certain level, and then the higher efficient air to take that air that came in from outside and literally condition it to the temperature that was comfortable. And I thought, why am I putting in 2 systems? But overall, it makes good sense. And how many times do you have the heat or air out that you need a backup system? So it works, and it causes your equipment to run more efficiently and have those who did that that type of installation, are able to meet indoor air quality standards now.
Folks, I want to tell you something. If you have never been on a podcast before as a guest, and you're listening to this and you're a school plant manager in Missouri, you see how easy it is for Charley to come from one thing to another thing to another thing. And here we've spent close to 40 minutes talking with Charley, and he hasn't said anything about it's time to get off. I'm scared of this.
Well, I guess we could do an encore sometime.
Folks, that's how easy it is to podcast. So please, 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 if you're listening to this and you're in Missouri and you're a school plant manager, you know what? I keep saying Missouri. Heck, folks, if you're a school plant manager in any state in the United States, we want to talk with you. I want to get back to the conference for a moment. Where is it? What's kind of the schedule? Give us a little bit more details. I know we mentioned at the top of the show where it is, or we mentioned when, but let's go back to that just a little bit.
Sure. We have an annual conference in the fall. We try to wait till the air conditioning doesn't need to be on as heavy in the school, and we haven't yet turned all the heat on. So that seems to be the best time for plant managers to move out of their school districts. So they've got their athletic program in the fall is in the middle. So, everything's smooth. We offer our conference once a year in Branson right now. We've been there for 2 or 3 years. We'll be there for 2 or 3 more years. September 18th, which is a Sunday. We come in on the evening and we have a get together social with our vendors. And that's all paid for within your $125 registration fee, which is really cheap for a statewide conference. And then we kick off early on Monday morning with our members on a provided buffet breakfast, and we have some open session items for about an hour and 15 minutes, and then we break off into our breakout sessions for an hour to 2. We come back in at 10:30 for the largest vendor show, school facility vendors join us. We have about 126 vendors join us. So it's a very large show. I don't know if there's another one as large in the Midwest. And we're with our vendors until 2:15 to 2:30. We have lunch with them in the vendor hall. All the vendors, all the members come and eat together. So there's about 550 people there at one time together. Very, very large, very wide open. The vendors are from roofing to electrical parts to custodial equipment and products. A lot of restoration companies. We'll have some architects. We'll have engineers. And as much as anything with our vendors, they're going to meet our school folks during that time, but they're also going to meet one another. So you have engineers that meet architects and architects that see different flooring options that are out in schools. They're not in their offices that day. They're out in a vendor show. So it's a time for them also to see what's available in school facilities. We have our turf and track folks. Not only do we have turf and track installers, but we have maintenance companies for that, playground companies. So it's a huge show. It's one place that you can see all those things that you need for your school facilities in one location. And then we'll leave at about 2:15, 2:30 out of the vendor show and head back into some class sessions. And then we head into dinner on your own. And then that evening, Monday evening, we have a large event for all of our both vendors and members to come get together over on the landing. We're at the Hilton downtown Branson with the Branson Convention Center. It's all in walking distance, just a block across onto the landing there at Lake Taneycomo. So it's a beautiful setting, a lot of shopping. We have a lot of husbands and wives join us for this conference, and we chose that for a reason. So we have an evening affair there that evening at a place down on the landing, bowling, shuffleboard, just about every game that you can imagine. We have karaoke. Of course, we have food and drink. And so all that's paid for by some of our vendors. And we want our vendors and our members to meet during sessions, during socials, and then we want them to see each other in the vendor shows. Instead of one touch, we have 2 or 3 touches with one another and develop more of a relationship. And hopefully then our vendors have answers and solutions for our school plant managers. Tuesday morning, we have another general session. We celebrate our facility manager certification training program, those that have gone through the entire training. And those folks, we graduate them and take photographs with them and thank them for doing what they do. And then we have about 3 more hours of class sessions. And then we go home right at lunchtime on Tuesday.
If you're listening to this and you wanted to talk about any of that kind of stuff, I can guarantee you can come by and talk with me. I'm going to be podcasting through all of what Charley just went through. So if you came to talk at a show, which is what Charley just explained, folks, and especially if you're one of those people that did the karaoke, I know you can talk. Okay. Come on, let's get on the air and talk. It doesn't have to be long, 10 or 15 minutes. You don't have to do an hour like Charley's doing today, but hey, if you want to, I'll be here and I'll be listening and we'll be broadcasting it. Some of it will be broadcast live from right where we're at. Some of it will be recorded and produced later. So, the thing about podcasting, Charley, is it's the modern day radio show that's always at your fingertips.
Right. It's my first time to do a podcast. I've done some live interviews on radio, but it's my first time. I appreciate, David, you prompting me so that I knew what to share with the audience, and I'm more than happy to come back with you and share more. We are very hopeful that the folks in the state of Missouri, I drive down the road up and down Interstate 70, and I make 10 phone calls, but recently I've been listening to your podcast. So I enjoy that. It makes me think, and it's easier to apply when I get back into to the office and our planning. So I've enjoyed it, and I think we have more to talk about.
Now you've got an hour listening to yourself.
I don't know that I'll do that. I'll as an English teacher, I'll hear myself slaughter the English language and slur, and I won't enunciate very well. So I'm going to do like some of the movie folks. I'm not going to watch my own production or listen to it in this case.
Okay, so folks, that's September the 18th through the 20th, Branson Hilton Convention Center. Charley, do you have a website, contact, place that they can learn more about it? I'm sure that all school plant managers already know about it.
We are kicking off actually right at the end of the month, our registration for members. We already have 90 vendors signed up. As I told you earlier, we're going to take 126. At the 11th hour, I'll have 4 or 5 vendors call me and beg. They forgot to get in or they're new to the company. So we'll end up with 130 vendors. www, the acronym for Missouri School Plant Managers, MSPMA.com in this case. So www.mspma.com. That's the Missouri School Plant Managers. We're on.
Okay, we lost Charley there for a moment. That's what kind of happens on some of these things. He'll probably come back to us. The thing about it is, folks, whenever you are listening to a podcast, there's technology. And Charley's coming back?
Yes.
There he is. So I told you he'd come back. All I had to do was just run my mouth, and I'm good at that. There's a lot to be learned by listening to other people, but we all have something to say. And here on our show here at Beyond Clean with Ace and all the other podcasts that we put this out on, it's what do you have to say that is healthy, positive, and proactive? Now, folks, there's always something negative happening. We use those as highs and lows. We learn from the lows so that we have more of the positive. That's what we want to focus on. So if you're listening, even if you're not a school plant manager, today that's who we're talking to and talking about. Anybody that has something to say, we really would love to have you come on here and talk with us. Now, I'm the director of the Academy of Cleaning Excellence here in Orlando, Florida. We do a number of different things. We've got certifications for frontline technicians in the cleaning industry, commercial cleaning. We've got a new show that's going to be coming out next month. It's called Talking Clean in a Dirty World. And I got to tell you, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So we're going to have 4 people live on the air, going to talk about the current issues, different thoughts and solutions from the commercial cleaning industry side of it, contractors, suppliers, vendors. We all have something to learn. Charlie, any last parting words before I ask my 2 closing questions?
No, sir. I've talked enough.
Where were you born?
I was born, my father was teaching and coaching in Memphis, Missouri at Scotland County. And I was born in Davis County, Iowa, Bloomfield, Iowa, in Davis County Hospital.
And what is on your bucket list personally for this year?
To make my wife happy.
Now, come on.
We've been
now, if you've been married any time, folks, if you're a guy who's been married, that's just an everyday thing.
We've been married 38 years in August, and she revealed her bucket list to me right before Christmas for some reason, and had a lot of travel. And I've had an ankle replacement and need a knee and do a lot of therapy. But I said, well, while I'm up and going and we're active, let's get some of this accomplished. So we did 10 days in Hawaii. That was number 1. She's headed out this weekend to New York City with her sister. She's headed to Scotland next year. So that's what it's about for me right now. I have a day gig as a COO of a multi-million-dollar company in the landscape world, and so I just want to get better at that. So that's what I'm doing. If I had a personal bucket list, I got a taste of traveling during the winter last year and playing golf. And so I told all those around me I'd be going 4 times starting in November through February this year to different places. I'm sure I'll be in Florida once or twice, and I'll be in Arizona. We're talking maybe something in the tropics. Go do some golfing during warm weather and enjoy life, and meet more of my former friends and buddies and spend more time with them because we've been out making a living the last 35 years. So that would be it.
Folks, as we close out our show today, we thank you for joining us and being a part of this podcast, whether you were here live with us on the air. We noticed some folks came in and out listening. We thank you very much. The podcast is live on Podbean live broadcast whenever we get somebody that wants to talk. And Charlie wanted to talk today, and sounds like he'll talk some more later. The reason that we asked these 2 questions of every one of our new guests is that, it doesn't matter where you started, and we don't know where we're going to end. But what we implore you to do is make sure that you keep that journey in between those healthy, positive, and proactive. Until we talk to you again here on the net, have a good one. So we'll end it right there.
Yeah, sounds good.
There's a few people still listening, so we thank you for being on. We've closed our show. Charlie, I will work through the week getting this out. If you have any other things, like some things that you would like for me to put in the show notes, maybe links to certain groups or that you would like for me to put into the show notes so that anybody listening, looking at the notes, gets to the right places, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And I'll let you know whenever we get this all reworked and everything and out, and I'll put it on LinkedIn, and I'll tag you on it so you'll also know it there.
You bet. I've enjoyed it. Thanks for breaking me in, so to speak.
Hey, we all started somewhere. Have a good week, my friend.
All right. Take care, David. Bye.